Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Farming Simulator 25 map guide. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Judith Plains, Montana. But before that, this video is brought to you by Gizmo UK and Doughboy2913. Thank you for being farm barons. So the Judith Plains, Montana map can be found over at DJ Modding's itch.io site, and I will have a link to that down in the description below. Do note, when you do download this map, there are 3 additional required mods, and be sure to download those and have those in your mod folder as well. Now, I am working off of a pre-release version of this map. We're actually recording this a day before the scheduled release. So what you see in this video may differ slightly from what you have in final release, because there are a few little tweaks that I do know that may still occur between the version I have and the version you can download. With that said, let's go ahead and talk about the map. This is a fictional 4X map inspired by central Montana, emphasizing agriculture and expansive landscapes. It features multiple towns, a vast train system connecting 2 of those towns, and a route that begins in the highlands, winds through dense forests, and descends into the valley, covering a significant portion of the map. There are scattered bridges, 2 creeks, a river cutting across the terrain to add an immersive experience. Now, this is a 4X map, and therefore is going to be available for PC and Mac players only. Now, the reason for that is twofold. One, it's not available on the main Giants mod hub. It's over at itch.io, and we all know the only way to get anything on the console is through the Giants mod hub. 2, it's a 4X map. We've yet to see a 4X map get released and stay released for console. I do believe that there are some platform-specific restrictions keeping 4X maps away from consoles, so I don't see this coming to console anytime in the near future. With that said, this map includes 2 custom crops in clover and alfalfa. They are set up just like grass, so that you can mow them. You can ted them into clover and alfalfa hay. You can also wrap them for silage or bale them for animal feed. This map includes Harvestore production silos at each farm that can produce silage from grass, alfalfa, clover, and chaff. There's also a corn dryer at every farm that converts corn into dried corn. There are also 2 new straw types added to this map, cornstalks and bean straw, which can be baled and sold or used as animal bedding. The map includes custom productions in whiskey, beer, wine, ethanol, soy milk, pasta, pizza, corn oil, and corn flour. There's also custom corn textures by AW Modding. There is what I call stubble destruction built into the map, and grass planted will now have a seasonal color change effect. This map includes custom ground textures in paint mode and a modified sunrise and sunset, as well as darker nights. We're looking at 122 arable fields on this map, ranging from medium to large, with a few meadows. If you do play with precision farming, this map also includes a custom soil map, and the entirety of the map can be purchased. With respect to the 6 farms that are built out on this map, well, they are color-coded with color-themed barns, animal pens, and silos. Overall, there's a total of 6 pre-built farms, 7 empty land areas where you can build your own farm, and 10 dairy barns, 6 sheep pastures, 4 pigsties, and 6 chicken coops scattered around the map. So if you do wish to put down additional animals, you will need the additional animals mod, which I believe is part of the required for when you download this map. Each farm also has custom grain bins, and as we mentioned earlier, the grain dryer. There are 12 sell points on this map, accepting various products, 3 train silos and train sell points, bulk feed shop for purchase of seed, lime, herbicide, fertilizer, anhydrous, and propane. So that is correct. This map is set up with anhydrous. If you are playing without precision farming, then you'll be able to fertilize your fields with anhydrous if you have an appropriate tool to apply it to the field. There is a caveat, though. If you are playing with precision farming, it does not recognize anhydrous as a nitrogen source. You will need some sort of mod or additional script to inject anhydrous as a nitrogen source into precision farming before that will work for you. So that's just a little bit of a caveat. This map also includes custom Montana license plates. Propane has been added for various productions like the grain dryer. We also have 2 fire stations with animated doors and interiors, gas stations, and vehicle dealer with an interior. And in fact, at the John Deere vehicle dealership, well, there's a whole lot of equipment sitting out front. All that equipment can be used by the player. You don't own it, but you can make use of it. So have at it. There are also custom environmental sounds and building smoke effects built into the map, and the map includes MTA with 32 angles for better realism in the field. With that said, let's go ahead and jump back here to the map and take a look at the PDA itself. First things you might notice is a very large portion of this map is set aside for agriculture. There's not a whole lot of wasted space here, and the empty space that does exist is going to be a little bit of forest. So for example, we have a forest here at Farmland ID 131, 144, and 147, but a vast majority of this map is set aside for field work. And again, there are 6 farms pre-placed, of which you own 2 at the start. As I mentioned, we have all of our standard crops available to us in Farm Sim 25. In addition, we have alfalfa and clover as additional crops. And it's always nice to see maps where we have these additional crops already pre-placed and planted when we load up for the first time. With respect to our farms that we own at the start, we start up by owning Farmland ID 132 and 133. So we technically own kind of 2 farms at the start, although 133 is a pretty small setup. Farmland ID 132 is going to include sheep, cows, chickens, and pigs. Meanwhile, 133 is going to include cows. We also are going to have our production with our fermenting silos and our grain dryer. And 132 also has a greenhouse for rice saplings. With respect to fields that we own at the start, we start up by owning Farmland ID 102, 91, 94, 95, 82, and 50. Now, 82 is a very interesting shape, and as you can see, we have a train that is basically running around field 82 at the moment. That's because the train line comes through this way and then loops around field 82 to get to the grain silo right here, and then it's going to connect back to the track and make its way down around and loop down towards the south. With respect to other farms on this map, we have Farmland ID 135 that we can purchase for $481,368. That farm is going to support sheep and cows. We also have Farmland ID 136. That's going to be buyable for $500,710. It's going to support sheep, chicken, pigs, and cows. We have Farmland ID 137 that can be bought for $173,000. It's going to support sheep, chickens, and cows. We also have Farmland ID 138, which is simply a cow pasture here beside Farmland ID 41. We have Farmland ID 139 for $194,040. It's going to support cows, sheep, and then the farmhouse itself is going to be a little bit removed from the farm. It's going to be here at Farmland ID 23, and that can be bought for $317,184. We have the farm that I've been demoing this map at, Farmland ID 137, or 134, sorry. We bought for $442,344. That particular farm has 2 cow pastures, sheep and chicken. And then let's go back up here and talk again about our starting farm. Farmland ID 133, we can buy for $409,824. And Farmland ID 132, we can buy for $513,480. Should we choose to load this map up and select to not own the starting farm. All the farms are built out exactly how you're going to see them in this video. The only exception is you do not have any starting machinery if you select to not own the starting farm at the start. So that's going to give you the ultimate inflexibility in picking where you start on the map, because you won't have any machinery. But of course, you can pretty much steal everything at the John Deere dealership and make use of that until you have enough money to buy your own stuff. In addition, I should say that 132 also has a large amount of beehives also here, with respect to also your beehive honey spawn point. The description made comment of several land areas where you could also have buildable plots. They're all going to be around the 141 to 148 farmland ID range. So we're going to find those scattered in here. Like, for example, farmland ID 142 for $444,000. We also have farmland ID 143 for $257,000. Farmland ID 145 for $611,000. Farmland ID 146 for $169,000. Just as a little bit of an example. And then farmland ID 148 for $149,328. We've already talked about the BGA that is here at farmland ID 123. No, actually, I don't think we have. That was a different cut that I threw away. There's a BGA at farmland ID 123. You can buy that for $114,480. This is rather interesting because you enter the BGA through the farmyard of the starting farm, which leads me to believe that this is kind of an extension of the starting farm. Not a bad price to pick this up with, and it's right here beside farmland ID 82. And in fact, that's the only way you can access 82 is through the BGA fence. So kind of an interesting thing there. We can get our anhydrous as well as lots of our other fill points here in the northern town. In fact, right there is our anhydrous fill point. We have our propane fill point here. We have buy points for our lime, fertilizer, seed, herbicide, etc. here as well. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what that custom soil map is going to look like once we overlay it across all the fields. We're looking at basically 3 of the 4 soil types here in sandy loam, and silty clay. Take a look at our crop counter. We do have our crop counter here with our custom entries for alfalfa and clover. With respect to our farms, our animals, we do not start out with any actual animals in any of the coops, but we have pig farm at farm 1, sheep farm at farm 1, chicken farm at farm 1, and we have cow 2 at farm 1 and cow 1 at farm 1 as well. Then we also do have contracts available on this map, quite a bit of contracts, and we're also going to have our new contracts that come with Farm Sim 25. In our rock removal, we also have our wood transport and our dead wood contracts. With respect to our productions, we do start out by owning a farm, so we do have access to a corn dryer and a fermenting silo at the start. And we're going to have up to 6 corn dryers and 6 fermenting silos if we own the entirety of the map and therefore own all the farms. As far as available productions, well, we have American Pizza Company that's going to make pizza with flour, cheese, tomatoes, chili peppers, and garlic. We've got our biogas plant, our canning factory, as well as our carpenter cement factory. We have Country View Dairy. It's also set up with soy milk for soybeans and water. We have Duckhorn Winery that's set up to produce wine from grapes and water. We have our flour mill that's set up with corn flour, Jack Daniel's whiskey, which is going to take corn, dry corn, barley, and water. We have Montana Bakers, which is going to take pasta, and we're going to get flour, eggs, and butter in order to make the pasta. We have our oil plant where we can also produce corn oil. We have our ethanol plant where we're going to take dry corn, sorghum, propane, and corn to produce ethanol. We have our sawmill. We have a spinnery, we have a tailor, and we have a beer production where we're going to bring barley and water and make beer. With respect to our sell points, as I mentioned, the description says there's 12. I counted a whole lot more than that when I was counting icons, but some of those may have been multiple sell points tied to a specific location. So there's going to be an abundance of various places that you can sell your crops and your products. So you don't have to worry too much about not having a really good economy for the things you're producing. We do not have any hand tools at the start, and this map also does not have any collectibles. Now, we're just going to kind of ignore this stuff that's on display for now because technically we don't own it. But what we do own, if we do select to own the starting farm, is our starting machinery. We're going to have the John Deere 6R 185 and the 6R 250 medium tractors. We also have access to the Farmall 120C small tractor, and we have the Volvo VNX 300 semi. For our case, we have the L630 front loader arms. We've got the J&M X10 Reach 1112 auger wagon and the Load King triple hopper semi trailer. We have the Dalbo Power Chain 800 disc harrow. We also have our HR 6040 RCS and BTFR 6030 seeder and power harrow combination. We're going to need the C tank for that, the TF 1512. We also have the Partner 1600 FT front hopper for our planter, which is going to be the Mastero 975 RX. We have our Breedal K105 fertilizer and lime spreader. We also have the PFW 18,000 Max Line Plus slurry tanker, and then the Hardy Mega 1200L fertilizer and herbicide sprayer, and the 1200L front tank, again, to do our fertilizing, and also anhydrous. Not exactly realistic with respect to how we apply anhydrous, but it is set up to do work with anhydrous at the start, so you won't have to go try to find custom realistic anhydrous equipment if you don't mind simply spraying it in the air. That's not how it works in real life. At any rate, we've got our John Deere S7 800 harvester. For that, we have the HD45X grain header and the C16F corn header. For our grain header, we're going to make use of the Nardi N7040 header trailer. We've got the Semez KDF 341S and the KDD 941 STH mowers. Our forage wagon is going to be the PF 2.24 Plus. And if we look down here at the fill types, we see it is set up for our corn stubble, as well as our soybean straw. We have our clover and our alfalfa hay here as well as our normal ingredients for our TMR. We take a look at mods and DLCs. We'll see that we do have a custom propane IBC tank. That's not how you buy propane, but okay, available here at the shop. And we also have some modded tankers that have been set up to transport propane and anhydrous, as well as all the other liquids on the map. Again, that's not really how you're going to be transporting propane and anhydrous realistically, but these are available, so you can start using that if you don't have realistic pressure trailers in order to transport those gases. Here at the shop, we're going to have to go inside to get to our shop trigger. And let's see. Yep, we can get into this too. So pretty much anything here at the shop, you're going to be able to drive. Assuming you can get it out of here. Which isn't going to be a problem. And then as far as our dealership trigger, that's going to be located right here. inside, yeah, we got our service guy, and then we have our trigger located right there. Let's go ahead and purchase something just so we'll see where it's going to spawn. And you can see, given the size of this map, the spawn area for our machinery isn't necessarily the largest. And depending on what you're buying, well, it might be a little tight to get hooked up and get out of here. And when I say a little tight, I mean, if you're going to use something big like the Plains and Prairies Pack Seed Hawk and its seed tank, well, you're going to have the little finagling to do in order to get all hooked up. But you will be able to do that because we've done that in our pre-release coverage of Plains and Prairies. And you will be able to get out of here because, well, even though it's a little tight with our parking lot here, you are going to be able to get out of here. We do have a very wide entrance. You'll be able to swing out and make your way. The only thing that might be a little tight is this area right here, where we got to do like a 270 in order to make our way down the road. So as I mentioned, this is a pre-release. So you may see some things that may or may not make their way into the final release, like errant chickens and roosters just kind of hanging out. That said, let's make our way over to our starting farm and check some things out. Now, it's been a while since I've done a drive around, and we're not going to do a drive around per se on this map, but I did want to just kind of drive over here to our starting farm just to give you a little bit of a sense of how things looked at the road level. And one of my first impressions when I loaded this map up for the first time to take a look at it was how incredible the map looked. It just felt right. And if you've ever had a map just feel right, you kind of know what that experience is like. If you've had a map just not feel right at all, you just aren't in the groove, well, you also kind of know how that is. And one of the reasons why I felt that this map really just felt right is the attention to detail on some of the things that you just sometimes don't really see, or sometimes you can't really appreciate. Like these little valleys where we got a little stream running through it. And we'll see later on in the video where we have bridges and we've got little embankments and water is flowing over those little waterfalls again into streams. It just reminds me of the sights you would see in rural America. And to that end, well, here we are kind of at our starting farm. If we make our way all the way to the back of farmland ID 132, you're going to find yourself here at the sheep pasture. We go inside, we have our buy point for sheep. We have a total of 500 sheep in this pasture. We have our food trough there. And if I were to just generally speculate as to where our wool and milk is going to spawn, I would say it's going to be over here in this corner. Let's make our way back across. So there's some buildings. That's Farmland ID 133. We also own that at the start, so we're going to be taking a look at that here in a moment. On the other side of this little cut, we've got our cow pasture. So we have our slurry point. Here we have our food trough. We have a bale trigger. We're going to be feeding bales. We have our milk trigger. At our dairy, and then down here underneath the barn is where we're going to buy our cows. We have a total of 500 cows here. On the upper level, we can make use of the upper part of the barn for implement storage, bale storage, pallet storage, really whatever. We have our chicken coop. So we have our feed. We have our egg spawn point. 500 chickens in here. And with respect to farmland customization, again, this may change in the final release, but I was not successful in selling too much of any one given farm. So a lot of these farm buildings are going to be pretty much fixed. How you're going to see them here. Some of our machinery in there. We do have a farmhouse that we can enter here on our starting farm. We do have an upstairs, but our wardrobe triggers here in the first floor bathroom, and then our bedroom for convenience is right here as you enter on the side. We have a small farmer's market sell point here at this farm. And then across the road, we're going to find some more of our machinery storage. Really great interiors. So really help sell the immersion on so many of these farms. This is going to be our fuel point. We will be able to purchase fuel and use this fuel point. Even though there currently isn't a floaty icon, I think that's going to be added here in a little bit. We've got our rice sapling greenhouse. So we have an interactive trigger, water point, and pallet point there. We have our grain dryer for our corn right here. So we have our interactive icon. We have our dump point and our fill point for our grain into there. This is also where we're going to add our propane. And then right beside that, we have our silo complex with our dump and fill point for our silo. On the side here, we have our pigs. So 500 pigs. We're seeing a bit of a theme here with respect to the number of animals. We have our straw trigger. We have our food trough there. And our slurry point for our pigs. More machinery sheds. And then this is going to take us into the biogas plant. Like I said, I found it interesting that we had to progress through our farmyard to get into here. And then from here, well, we have our field 82 on the other side of that fence. And the way we're going to get into that field is through this fencing. So where we're going to dump our our liquid manure. If we're bringing it here to our BGA, we have our digesters there. We have two large three-sided bunkers. And this is how we access field 82. So kind of an interesting setup there. Now I've gone ahead and purchased the BGA, as well as all of the other farmlands. So you can see we now own farmland ID 135, 136, 137, 38, 139, and 134. So we go and take a look at those specific farms as well. But here you can kind of get a little overview of our starting farmland location here at 132. Town's right over in that location there. And as I mentioned, we do have a lot of greenhouses, not greenhouses, honeybees here on farmland ID 132 as well. So we have our honey production. Just down the road, we have farmland ID 133, which is, in my opinion, the second farm on this map. But since they're color coded, we're going to go with an extension of the first farm because, well, they are green, not green, red. And here we've got some more machinery storage. In fact, I believe some of our starting machinery is actually over here. Really great details on all of this stuff. And this is going to be our fermenting silo. So we have our dump point here. We have our interactive trigger there. And we're going to get our output there. We have our milk trigger for this large cow pasture. $500 cows here as well. Inside we have our food and straw triggers. Then around the back, right, we have our cow pasture. And it actually extends all the way over to here. We have our slurry point. And then, like I was mentioning about these, just scattered around the map, you've just got these sites that sometimes you just find yourself just staring at. Just going, yeah. This is why I can see myself playing here for a while. This is what makes this map stand out over so many others. If we continue down the road here to the east, we're going to come to the blue farm. It again is kind of split with the road. So we have our farmhouse. And we have our sheep. 500 sheep here. Just like we saw at the other place, right? We have our food here. We have our wool and milk point there for our goats. Coming back across the street, we've got machine storage. Posters. I mean, this guy's all set up. We know why he's out in the shop all night long. So we've got our grain silo right next to our dryer. Kind of an older style fermenter. More machine storage. And then we have our large cow barn over here. So we have our milk. $500 cows. At this shed, we have our slurry point. All right, it's going to extend all the way down to here. And then, of course, we're going to have our feed triggers and our straw triggers inside. And it's going to be the blue farm. Now, if we make our way south from the blue farm, hang a right at the Y, or at the T, right? We come to these great views. Again, I just don't know how to overstress this. The level of details that you get, you just don't see too often, and it's kind of a shame. Here you could build out a farm. We're going to come back to all of these in a little bit. Here we have another farm. I won't venture to guess the color there, but cream and green? I don't know. Anyway, we've got our farmhouse. Machine shed storage. Down the hill. And around the corner, we're going to come to our cow barn. So we have our milk trigger. 500 cows here. We have our bale and food. We have our slurry point. And then back up on the upper side, we're going to be able to make use of this, just like we could at the other barn, for bales, pallets, machinery, implements, tools, whatever. Really do like the way that this farm just kind of comes down the hill. It's not always just built on flat land. Just gives the whole place a bit more character. To that end, we're not talking about a flat map either. So 500 pigs. We have our straw trigger. We have our food trigger. We have our slurry point. Up the hill from the pigs, we're going to have our fermenting silo. Our fuel tank. Chicken coop. 500 chickens. Food and eggs. Here we have our sheep and goats. $500 here as well. Our food. We have our milk. Our sheep are going to have a pasture that extends out under the road a little bit. And then our farm dryer and silos systems over here on this side. And we wind our way over here and into the forest. Got a nice little pond down here. Here we have the cow pasture that again goes under the road and extends up. So we take this road and continue on, coming over towards the middle of the map. And directly in front of us, we're going to have another farm. So this is maybe the white farm. So we have sheep. 500 sheep again here. We're gonna find our food. Our milk, our wool. We have a Harvestore Silo. The appropriate triggers for that. Our farmhouse. Coming around the back, we have our silo complex. We have our dryer complex. We have our cow pasture. With our food and bale trigger inside. 500 cows again on this one. We have a slurry pit. We have a milk trigger. Right by the train, we have our chicken coop. So we have our food, our eggs, 500 chickens. And that's the white farm. This is a standalone cow pasture, but it's technically, I guess, associated with the white farm. It's only once removed by this field. It's not owned, same farmland, so it is independently purchased. That's going to be farmland ID 138. So we have our milk trigger. Our slurry point, 500 cows, as we begin to pretty much establish is the norm here. And our food and straw triggers. If we come back to our road, we're going to make a road in. This is an AI field, pasture of cows, just if anyone hadn't wondered. And then here we have our second town. We have the ethanol plant right there. But we're going to hang a right here at the AI cow pasture. We're going to go under the train bridge, kind of along the river, to get over to another farm. I guess this one's going to be the gray farm. We have our farmhouse. Like I said, ignore these, right? They've been mentioned, I know, and should be corrected in the release version. Something to note about the gray farm here is this covered bridge, right? Do note at the narrowness of that bridge, and therefore the size of the machinery that you're going to be able to take through that bridge to get to these fields on the other side of this kind of drainage way. We've got a couple sheds over here, but the bulk of our buildings going to be right there. We have machine shed, our dryer, our silo complex, our harvest store, and then all of our cow pastures and animal pastures are located over here. A bit removed from the farmhouse. Wife appreciates this setup. So we have our sheep, 500. And we all know where things are at this point. Over the bridge, but not through the woods. Because we're not going to Grammy's, we're going to cow pasture. So we have our slurry. I was just admiring this site. At any rate, 500 cows. We have a milk trigger. We don't have the little floaty bits, but well, they're over here. Here's the chute for our food and straw. Then here we have another cow pasture. So we have a slurry. We have our milk. 500 more. And then our food and straw are going to be on the inside. And there you have the gray farm. Kind of here in the southwest corner. Now, there really isn't a road to take us up to the next farm, which is where I've been spending time at in my pre-release coverage of this map and Plains and Prairies. But this is going to be the final farm that we cover here in this map video. So we have our farmhouse. Ranch style farmhouse with a little above. We have our sheep and goats. $500 sheep, 500 goats. We have our food trough. We have our milk and wool. Just cut through our yard here. We have our fuel pump, our machine sheds. We have our silo. We have our dryer set up. We have our chickens, eggs, food, chickens, 500. This farm has 2 cow pastures. Both are going to hold 500. There are food and bales there. We have our milk around the corner. Slurry around the back. And the other cow is going to be around the corner of this shed. We have a harvestore there. Slurry point. Again, really great use of just landscaping and terrain elevation to ultimately give that just sense of, yeah, this could be real. We have our food. We have our milk. And then we're going to have our cow trigger around the front. For the final 500. Then this pasture is going to run along this ridge. So we have the valley. We have our kind of our plateau up here on the top. And let's make our way back to the town. And that's where we'll start talking about sell points, productions, and other things. Now, there's a ton going on at both of these towns. So I'm going to try to hit all the triggers. But again, there's just so much going on. And something I don't think I've touched on is performance of this map. So I did load this map up with my lower end test system, which is using AMD integrated graphics. Basically the same chipset and integrated graphics that you're going to find on your standard AMD powered Windows handhelds, and very similar to the hardware that's in the Steam Deck. And using my custom medium settings, I was able to achieve pretty sustained rates in the 30s and 40s, which may not sound good thinking about PC players and wanting to target 60 FPS. But when you're playing on a small screen, or you're playing on a little mini PC, there's going to be some sacrifices to make, and we run custom medium settings. We do turn on FSR frame gen, so we realistically, to our eyes, see 60 to 80 FPS. It's butter smooth. It's just as smooth as the gameplay here in this video. And on a small screen, the lower resolution, the lower quality of medium really doesn't look that bad at all. So you should be able to run this trouble-free on just about anything that's going to run Farm Sim 25. To that end, in town here, we have our bakery production. And then right across the street from that, this is where we're going to find our flathead feed and grain. This is going to be our grain transfer silo, as well as a grain sell point. And that's going to be right across the street from our dealership. We have our animal dealer here with our bale sell point, as well as our buy point for our animals. We're going to have then another grain sell point here. We have our manure and our slurry buy point associated with our animal dealer. Coming back across the street, we're going to have a small sell point here at groceries and general wares. We have our tailor right down the road from it. This is going to be that firehouse that was mentioned. So definitely worth checking that out on your own time. Maybe drop by Wendy's, get yourself a burger, then go across the street to the dairy production. This is where we're going to buy our anhydrous. We're also going to be able to buy our propane here. Inside, we're going to be able to pick up our bulk seed, our bulk fertilizer, and herbicide. Applebee's is going to buy some of our goods, as well as a couple other businesses here in town. And then we have our fuel point up here on the northern side of the map. Oh, and did I mention we have ice cream trucks to drive by? Here we have our pizzeria. And if we take this, before we take the diagonal road, let's go back over here. This is going to be a transfer area to transfer things to and from the grain or train. And like I mentioned, train's going to come in here, and then it's going to loop around the field. For better or worse, through there, and then back out and around. Here we have another grain sell point, Iron Ridge Grain. Nice little deco building there. Be neat if it had a maintenance trigger on it, but I don't see that showing up. Little old Texaco gas station here as well. We have our farmers market sell point. And then we have our brewery with our triggers here. We have our whiskey place with our triggers there. And then we have our warehouse where we can buy and sell goods. And then this is where we've got that farm, the last farm we looked at. But if we come back and continue to take this road, now we're going to go down the valley, circle back over here to the cream and brown farm. So we got a fuel point. We're a lumber company. So this is going to be our carpentry. And our sawmill is located right here. Got a nice little themed restaurant down here by the river. Willie's. And it is set up as a sell point. And then to that end, we'll talk about the southern town. So we have our spinnery. Grain sell point. And then we have a hay sell point here. Our cement factory down by the river where we have our dredge dredging up stuff. McDonald's is a fast food restaurant of choice here at the southern town. Another grain sell point. Lots of grain elevators here. Subway. Going to accept some bulk products. Here we have our ethanol factory. So we have our pallet point there. So cells there. Our oil mill. Dollar General sell point. There's our second fire department. Ducky's fuel. We're going to have sell point here at the general store. We have our packing plant. Our oil, or not our oil, our flour mill. And sell point there. Another fuel point. Another train sell point there. And let's come back a little bit. No, I felt like I missed something, but I didn't. And folks, that's a wrap. That is Judith Plains, Montana. There's a whole lot going on. This is a massive 4X map. It's going to play great for multiplayer because of the large number of farms out there. The fact that they all basically have the same thing. No one's going to feel as if their farm is less better than someone else's farm. Plenty of fields out here to work, again, in multiplayer or single player, ranging from medium to large. Ideal for the next hat. Ideal for plains and prairies. I can't think of a better map to be coming out at a better time than this, right before Plains and Prairies releases. I wish you guys have a great time here on this map, and till next time, happy farming.